Hi, beautiful beings of light. My name is Tiffany. Welcome back to another amazing video where we get to explore, hang out, and connect to learn more about our soul's journey. And today's topic, my crystal crown, I have gave it away. We're going to talk about the Atlantean temples and Akashic memories of Atlantis. I know that in my previous video, I've always talked a lot about Lemuria, and I briefly touched on Atlantis and why Atlantis have such a major soul imprint or energetic imprint on our souls. I've also talked about the timelines of Atlantis, and it is so important to us right now because at this point in our journey as a collective, we are going through another opportunity of ascension. And so you will notice that some of these Atlantean past life wounds might have been coming up for purification or transformation, or you might be able to remember flashes of your memories of Atlantis. And so in this video, it's a compilation of my own channeling, my own astral traveling experiences, and also from doing hundreds and hundreds of Akashic readings with starseeds and lightworkers such as yourself. So I want to take a moment to send everyone love and light from the Divine Creator, because this video would not have been possible without our collaborative efforts together. And so thank you very much for your support in whatever way that you have given me. Sending you lots of love, lots of light, and let's dive into today's video together. Alright, so you guys know me. I tend to go off topic quite a lot because there's so much in my mind that I want to convey. So I have some notes on the side of my screen. You might see me looking to the side from time to time. Excuse me for that, but it's just to help me keep on track and when I'm doing these videos because there's so much to talk about. So in Atlantean's time, the temples were really vast, and I've never seen structures like that when we go into our Akash and see into these temples. These temples, some of them have been destroyed from the Fall of Atlantis, but some of them are still intact at the bottom of the sea floor. And they were all constructed with great accuracy and strategic planning. Many of these buildings were built using solar rays and advanced molecular technologies. I feel that during that time, and I don't know everything, of course, right? Whatever I can see is simply through my own experiences and seeing, right, other people's Akash to affirm some of these visions. And so I'm sure at the prime of Atlantis, there was a lot of different technologies available. Right, we gotta think Atlantis was like a whole entire life cycle of Earth, and even during its prime, we are still talking about thousands of years here. There were many flying saucers and different spacecraft during the prime time of Atlantis. I remember seeing these floating ships or probes in the sky. I figure out that some of them have different purposes. Some are for transport items, some are for transportation for people. Now, I do notice that they do, even though have advanced technologies, I do see some people still stick with the more natural way of travel, right, by foot or by like a small boat and so forth. So it feels like it was a mixture of choices, and that's what we learn in Vedic traditions, right? The higher we go, the more open our chakras and consciousness, the more choices we have. And so that's what it felt like in Atlantis. There was a lot of choices at its prime, and really just one video cannot do it justice. So I'm doing my best here. And the spiritual realms and portals were open. There were many people that were able to access it through mystery school and training. And so what is very common, and I work with a lot of starseeds and lightworkers, so sometimes they have common themes, right? Is that I see a lot of us have gone into mystery schools in Atlantis, and they look very beautiful. I know we have university and college campuses, but the college, the University of Atlantis is so beautiful. Really, it's gorgeous. So these temples, what I could see, they do have these crystalline columns, and these are large crystalline columns. I haven't confirmed the exact number of columns. Some people have said there were 9. Some people have said there were 12. Some people said there were more than 12. I believe it depends how you decipher or define these crystalline columns, because these crystalline columns were used for not only activating the DNA structures of the human template, raising the vibration and creating free energy for the population. I also saw smaller crystalline columns that perhaps for a more specific purpose throughout the map of Atlantis. And so I feel that it's hard to say this is for certain, because from our perspective, it's really still very limited. And I remember that these large crystalline columns were surrounded by like a platform in these crystalline temples. And oftentimes when we enter these temples, I would describe one of the temples that I've seen in a little bit. But these crystalline columns, and I also remember during the Fall of Atlantis, there were some of us that were trying to use our ability, those psychic abilities, to hold these crystalline columns so that they won't crumble. Now, of course, despite our best efforts, some of them did crumble. However, I do believe there is 1 or 2 columns that are still intact somewhere on Earth that's protected. Probably not by us, probably by extraterrestrial or the inner earth beings. There's a lot of sacred items on the earth, and really to get into it is yet another video. So many of the rare crystals that we find on Earth, such as the Andara crystal, were relics of what was one part of these structures. And so these Andara crystals were once imbued into the dome, the ceiling, the walls of these great Atlantis temple. They are very rare now. Those Andara crystals are like sometimes thousands of dollars. And so these are relics because when you touch them, you can still feel the energetic imprint and energy that is infused into the crystal, right, in themselves. So that's why they are so rare. And that's why a lot of people are healers or channelers that want to learn more about Atlantis or Lemuria. They have a piece of these crystals. It helps them remember their Akash and channel crystals. And in my last video, I've talked about how to channel crystals, and there's a lot of examples in there. So if you like to work with crystal, you can check out that video. There was a lot of spiritual knowledge with the higher realm, elementals and celestial beings. It's not like now where the knowledge is so watered down or so suppressed and condemned by the the dark ones. So back then it seems to be quite available. I noticed that there's not just like one temple or one religion. There was quite, again, a lot of options. It was quite free, quite sovereign, right, during its prime time. Of course, things changed towards the end, right, towards the fall, but during its prime time, it was like heaven on earth. It was wonderful. And so there was this Atlantean temple that I saw myself and have seen a few times in Akashic readings with other starseeds and light workers. And so you know me, right? I like to, get information, but at least get some more confirmation before I share it to other people. And so I remember seeing this temple. It's great, large, it's white. There was like a crystalline dome, and there was like 2 spiral staircase that comes down the front, and at the front there's like a fountain almost built like a labyrinth with like flowers and sacred geometry. It was so beautiful. And so this temple also, when you enter towards the center of this temple, I remember seeing an altar, And there's a floating piece of crystal in the center. There was a large column of light that shines from this altar that holds this levitating crystal. And what's interesting is, once you're in the 4D, your guide shows you these affirmation, and I wanted to share a picture that I was able to find that reflects exactly what I saw in the vision. And I want to take a moment to thank all the artists, right? All you Starseed artists, whether you channel music or painting or digital art. It's really such a beautiful blessing to have artists convey some of these visions, because sometimes I can see this vision, I can only describe it, but I wish I can project it out so other people can see it. And that's what artists help us do. They help us convey these feelings and convey these energies and images. And so what I saw in that temple was Atlanteans were able to attune themselves to these crystals and use these crystals as part of their activation. And my guides were telling me that in terms of activation, what they meant was there was a formula, a medium, which is a crystal, and divine power, so source power, during these activations. And that's kind of like what we call magic sometimes, like, oh, wow, that seems like magic. But they have like a very specific protocol to activate using this formula, right, which is our consciousness. If you can understand it in the quantum physics or mathematics way, the medium, which is the crystal, and then divine power. So they knew how to combine these powers, these elements, the supreme elements as well. And I'll talk more about supreme elements in the next video. I also noticed that during the prime time of Atlantis, the crystal felt very different. Like we have crystal now, right? And you can feel the energy from these crystals. But the crystal at the prime time of Atlantis and Lemuria felt activated. You know what I mean? It's different. They are vibrating at a different bandwidth. I mean, given we were vibrating at a different bandwidth, but they work differently. And I feel that crystal now is just like us. They are also awakening. And so that's why in my last video, channeling light code through crystal, your crystal will change. It's not just going to be stagnant. Right? Every time when there's a new solar wave and quantum information that comes forth, your crystal is receiving it too. And it helps you activate more remembrance and more information. So not only we are activating, Gaia's activating, the animals are activating. You might have noticed that your pet's consciousness is activating more. They become more conscious and even more, with more expanded awareness. And so that's what I noticed about the crystal then compared to now. So I believe that we are meant to remember how to use these crystals, not just look at them as rocks, for they are keys, right? These crystals have keys, and I'll talk about more about key keepers crystal and record keepers as well. There was also, I saw a few times in readings and through my own astral projection, there was a great library. And the library not only held books, but tablets as well. There were some sacred items. There's so much to see in the library. I had to really just ground myself, because sometimes when there's too much, I get a headache when I'm using my third eye too much. So what I could see is that these tablets were ranked. They kind of reminded me like Doctor Strange, that movie, how there was like a library with different knowledge. And so an initiate must go through their trainings to access these tablets. And what I saw was some of these tablets open like a book, some don't. And these tablets sometimes will have, they look more like crystalline tablet, like an iPad, a thick iPad, but with like ingrains and different symbols. It looked very holographic. It's so hard to describe. but I saw people would put their hands on the tablet and they would connect and attune themselves to the tablet. It's really crazy, guys. It reminds me of, in the Matrix, they can download these like Kung Fu program into their consciousness. It kind of works like that, where you can attune yourself to the tablet, be able to download information into your consciousness. Very interesting way of learning. And let's see. So I don't want to make the video too long, so let's talk a little bit about the Fall of Atlantis. So from what I was able to see, with confirmation with a few more of my master channeler friends, is that there's 1 or 2 temples that were saved by the higher dimensional being. And these temples are more in the etheric realm. And from what I've read about the stories from Venusian, and these are books from Raymond Keller, which I have interviewed in some of my videos, in one of the books, the Venusians back in the 60s have looked into the future timeline. And what they disclose is that when the poles shift, these sunken buildings in the ocean, at the ocean floor, will rise. It's like a clockwork. They rise up, and when it's time, the higher dimensional beings, our galactic friends and family, will help us clean out these structures, and we'll be able to use them again. And so I feel like, I don't know if that's gonna happen. We'll see. The timeline is still fluctuating quite a lot right now. So we'll find out. And if you're curious to read more about that book I mentioned, it's called Lady Columba. It's the newest book that Raymond Keller has published. And you can get it from Rob Potter's website, thepromiserevealed.com. There was another random message that came forth when I was channeling the notes for this video, is that many of these stargates, such as the Lyran stargates, the Orion stargates, that was one tainted by the Dark Ones, have been retaken by the celestial forces. And so a lot of people sometimes wonder, like, why did Atlantis fall? How did it fall? It's really a multiple layered. It didn't fall just by one reason. There was infiltration started from the celestial realm, the etheric realm already, that cascade into Atlantis and Lemuria during that time. There was infiltration of the Dark Ones into the governing bodies of these continents, cities, and areas. And as they infiltrated, it mirrors what's happening now in humanity, how there were light workers that are trying to fight to preserve the freedom, to preserve the sacred knowledge and practices and sovereignty. And then there are the Dark Ones that were trying to control, right, Atlantis. And so what have happened was that the fall of Atlantis have to happen to save the population. Some light workers I've seen chose to give their life away and sink with Atlantis. Some other souls that I have seen were beamed back up onto their ships to witness the fall of Atlantis. And even just witnessing from your starship can be quite traumatic, right, to a lot of us, because we've invested a lot in Lemuria and Atlantis, and we lived for hundreds of years then. So it was quite, a traumatic time, and have left quite an energetic imprint in our ethereal body. And that's why now I have seen very common in a lot of starseeds that have lifetimes during this era of Atlantis, they have grief and sadness that they don't know why is there. And they don't feel like it's from this lifetime, and they just sometimes cry and they don't know why. Now, given there can be other reasons, every soul is different, right? I can't really generalize, but I do notice that quite a few people, during sessions, this grief and sadness came from Atlantis. And so that's my observation I wanted to share, because sometimes, these knowledge is not shared in the mainstream and can make us feel like we're going crazy, but we're not. It's just has been suppressed. And so I wanted to share this to just affirm to my beautiful fellow light beings that we are doing our best, and in every small way that you shine light, that you shine love and light to other people, to humanity, every time that you step into your power and you step into your strength, it matters because it is a ripple effect. It vibrates outwards into the collective. And I know that sometimes we feel that we're not doing enough, we feel that we're not going fast enough, but I wanted to just bring forth the encouragement that trust. So many of us, million of us is awakening. We are doing that little parts that we can. And I like to be optimistic and hopeful and have faith that victory is with the light and that we will bring back this golden era of the soul. I know that it seems very crazy right now, but this is the end game. This is it. We are running forth into the higher dimensions now. So this last stage of purging, this last stage of purification. And for me, I'm only allowed to speak on the energetic level. My mission is not to be a truther, to, go into the politics, the disclosures, just for my own safety. So I'm going around it in terms of energy. And so those of you that have been down the rabbit hole knows what I'm talking about. And just know that at this time, the best thing that we can do to heal our Atlantean wounds, Lemurian wounds, is to be love, right? To embody Christ consciousness, loving consciousness. But this also comes into a balancing of the peaceful warrior, the warrior goddess. We don't want to be pushed over in our naivety again. We want to learn from our past lives experiences, that wisdom that we have gained, and step into our power. We have to stand for justice. We have to fight in the name of love for our freedom and our sovereignty. And so I hope that this video has helped you perhaps affirm some of your experiences, your Akashic remembrance, or maybe inspire you to learn more about Atlantis and Lemuria. These are part of our galactic remembrance, and I know that in time, it will all be revealed to us. Thank you so much for joining me in today's Vortex of Light to expand and multiply love and light with one another. So much love from my heart to yours. So much light surrounding you from source, from your higher self and your guides. May you be surrounded by divine protection, divine abundance, and divine love. If you've enjoyed this video, support your fellow worker, thumbs up, share the video, subscribe to my channel. I have more amazing spiritual, mystical videos coming out. And if you would need some support, I do have a lot of courses on channeling, on light language, on becoming a healer, and also private sessions as well if you need more private support. And because of the censorship, if you've been enjoying my video materials, just in case, sign up for my email list, just in case something happens. We don't know at this point, so we can keep in touch. I do not spam with my newsletter. I hardly send any emails, so don't worry about that. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!